If I asked you to name the deadliest animal on Earth, you would probably picture something with teeth: a shark, a lion, a crocodile. But those animals barely register in the real numbers. Sharks kill around 6 people a year, lions around 200. Meanwhile, there are creatures killing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people annually, and most of them are so small or so familiar that you would never suspect them. This is the true ranking, the 10 deadliest animals on Earth, measured not by fear or by size, but by one cold, honest number: how many human beings they actually kill every year. And the higher we climb, the more this list will surprise you. Starting at number 10, the deadliest large predator on the list, and the only one that even resembles the monster of our imagination, the crocodile. Across Africa, Asia, and Australia, crocodiles are estimated to kill around 1,000 people every year, more than any other large predator on the planet. The two main culprits are the saltwater crocodile of the Asia-Pacific and the Nile crocodile of Africa, both enormous, both astonishingly powerful, and both perfectly evolved ambush hunters. They lie motionless at the water's edge, nearly invisible, then explode forward with a burst of speed no human could hope to outrun, seizing prey in jaws that clamp down with one of the most powerful bites ever measured, before dragging the victim under to drown. What makes them so deadly to people is simple overlap. In many parts of the world, the same rivers crocodiles hunt in are the only water people have to fish, wash, and collect from. And yet, here is the humbling part. This is the single most lethal large predator we have, and it sits at the very bottom of our list. There is a grim historical example of just how deadly they can be in the right conditions. During the Second World War, a large group of Japanese soldiers retreating through a mangrove swamp in Burma is said to have suffered catastrophic losses to saltwater crocodiles over a single night, one of the most extreme crocodile encounters ever recorded, though historians still debate the true numbers. Everything above it kills more. At number 9 is a creature that reverses the entire logic of this list, because it is famous for pain, not for death: the scorpion. There are over 2,000 species of scorpion, but only a few dozen carry venom potent enough to kill a human, and together they are responsible for an estimated 2,600 or more deaths every year. The danger is concentrated in a handful of species in regions like North Africa, the Middle East, India, and Latin America, where dangerous scorpions live in close contact with dense human populations. Their neurotoxic venom can trigger a cascade of effects: searing pain, convulsions, racing heart rate, and, most dangerously, fluid building in the lungs. And here is the tragedy hidden in the numbers: the vast majority of scorpion deaths are children. Their small bodies simply cannot withstand a dose of venom that a healthy adult would survive, which is why the deaths cluster among the very young in poor, rural communities. Part of what makes scorpions so dangerous to people is their habit of seeking shelter in exactly the places humans occupy, crawling into shoes, bedding, and clothing left on the floor, so that many stings happen inside the home, often at night, when a person unknowingly reaches for or steps on one. Anti-venom has dramatically reduced the toll where it is available, but where it is not, a creature you could cover with a matchbox remains a genuine killer of the vulnerable. At number 8 is an animal you carry the evidence of without ever knowing it, one of the most common parasites on the entire planet, the roundworm. Specifically, this is Ascaris, a parasitic worm that infects the human intestine, and it is astonishingly widespread, with estimates suggesting it lives inside hundreds of millions, possibly over 1 billion people worldwide. The infection usually spreads through soil and water contaminated with the microscopic eggs, which are then swallowed, often on unwashed food. Most people carry the worms with few obvious symptoms, but in heavy infections, particularly in children, the consequences can turn deadly. A dense tangle of worms can physically block the intestine, and the parasites can migrate into the bile ducts and other organs, causing life-threatening complications. By most estimates, roundworm infections kill thousands of people every year, again overwhelmingly children in regions with poor sanitation. The life cycle of this parasite is genuinely disturbing. After the eggs hatch in the intestine, the young larvae do not simply stay put. They burrow through the intestinal wall, travel through the bloodstream to the lungs, are coughed up and swallowed again, and only then return to the intestine to grow into adults up to 30 centimeters long. A single heavily infected person can harbor dozens, even hundreds of these worms at once. It is a stark reminder that the deadliest creatures are often the ones already living quietly inside their victims, requiring no bite, no sting, and no encounter at all. Just a swallowed egg too small to see. At number 7 is an insect that has quite literally decided where humans could live, the tsetse fly. Found across sub-Saharan Africa, this biting fly transmits the parasites that cause African sleeping sickness. The disease progresses in stages, beginning with fevers and aches, then advancing as the parasites invade the brain, producing the confusion, personality changes, and reversed sleep patterns that give the illness its name, before ending in coma and death. Left untreated, it is almost always fatal. At its historical peak, sleeping sickness killed on a massive scale, and for generations it rendered huge, fertile regions of Africa effectively uninhabitable, too dangerous for people or their cattle. Thanks to a sustained international effort, reported cases have fallen dramatically in recent years, one of the genuine success stories in the fight against these diseases. But the fly is still there, still carrying the parasite, and the threat of resurgence is always present. For an insect, few animals have shaped the destiny of an entire continent so profoundly. Time for a quick break before the top 6. If the pattern here is starting to surprise you, that the real killers get smaller as the death toll climbs, then hit subscribe, because it only gets more extreme from here, and it genuinely helps the channel. Now, back to the countdown. At number 6 is an insect with a deceptively tender name, the kissing bug. It earns that name from its grim preference for biting people on the face, around the lips and eyes, while they sleep. The bite is not the danger. As it feeds, the bug leaves behind droppings that can carry a parasite, and when the sleeping victim scratches, they rub that parasite into the wound. The result is Chagas disease, and its horror is its patience. A person can carry the infection silently for 10, 20, even 30 years, feeling perfectly healthy, while the parasite slowly and permanently damages the heart and digestive organs. When it finally reveals itself, often as sudden, fatal heart failure, it is far too late to undo the damage. Chagas disease kills an estimated 10,000 or more people every year, and millions more are living with the infection right now, most of them completely unaware. What makes Chagas so difficult to fight is that window of silence. Because symptoms can take decades to appear, the disease spreads and entrenches itself in a population long before anyone connects the dots, and by the time heart problems emerge in middle age, few victims ever suspect an insect bite from their childhood. It is a slow-motion killer, a bite in the night that can end a life decades later, long after the victim has forgotten it ever happened. At number 5 is the animal humanity chose to invite into its homes, our oldest and most loyal companion, the dog. It feels almost like a betrayal to put it on this list, but the numbers are undeniable. Dogs are responsible for an estimated tens of thousands of human deaths every year, with many estimates around 59,000. And here is the crucial point. The vast majority of these deaths are not from attacks or bites in the way you might imagine. They come from rabies. Dogs are by far the main source of human rabies infections worldwide, responsible for up to 99% of cases, transmitting the virus through a single bite or scratch. And rabies, once symptoms appear, is one of the most reliably fatal diseases known to medicine, very nearly 100% lethal. The tragedy is that rabies is entirely preventable with vaccines, both for dogs and for people bitten by them. The deaths are concentrated in parts of Asia and Africa where those vaccines are hardest to access, and, heartbreakingly, around 40% of the victims are children. There is a special cruelty to rabies that makes these deaths so tragic. The virus travels slowly along the nerves toward the brain, which means there can be weeks or even months between the bite and the first symptoms, a window in which a simple course of vaccine could still save the person's life. But once the virus reaches the brain and symptoms begin, with fever, agitation, and a terror of water, death is virtually certain, and there is almost nothing medicine can do. Our best friend, through a preventable virus, is one of the deadliest animals we live alongside. At number 4, the deadliest venomous animal on the planet, and the creature most people probably expected to top this entire list, the snake. Every year, snakes are estimated to kill somewhere between 80,000 and 140,000 people, with the true figure likely around 100,000, and they leave hundreds of thousands more permanently disabled through amputations and lasting tissue damage. The overwhelming majority of these deaths happen in rural parts of Asia and Africa, among farmers and their families, often bitten in fields or while sleeping, far from any hospital with antivenom. It is not the famous, dramatic snakes that do most of the killing, but small, common species that live alongside people, striking in the dark before anyone even knows they are there. Snakes have haunted human nightmares for as long as we have existed, and unlike sharks or big cats, that fear is actually backed by the numbers. The scale of the problem is enormous and largely invisible to the wider world. Each year, an estimated 5 million people are bitten by snakes, and the survivors often pay a lifelong price, losing fingers, hands, or entire limbs to the tissue-destroying effects of the venom. The World Health Organization has formally classified snakebite as a neglected tropical disease, an acknowledgement that this ancient killer has been overlooked for far too long, precisely because it strikes the poorest and most remote communities on Earth. And yet, even the snake, the killer we fear most instinctively, is nowhere near the top of this list. There are still 3 animals that kill more. At number 3 is a creature with no teeth, no venom, and no interest in us whatsoever, the freshwater snail. It does not attack. It is a carrier. Certain freshwater snails host the larvae of parasitic worms, and those larvae can burrow straight through human skin during nothing more than a swim or a wade through infested water. Once inside, they cause schistosomiasis, a disease that slowly damages the internal organs over many years. It infects hundreds of millions of people worldwide, and while the exact death toll is genuinely uncertain and debated, with estimates ranging widely, many sources place it as high as around 200,000 deaths a year, which would put it among the deadliest parasitic diseases on Earth, second only to malaria. Even at the lower estimates, its impact is staggering, stunting the growth and development of countless children who carry it. It thrives exactly where poverty and unsafe water meet, which is why it remains a massive public health burden while being almost unknown in wealthy nations. A creature you could hold on a fingertip has caused suffering on a scale the deadliest predators could never approach. At number 2 is the most uncomfortable entry on this list, because it is us, the human being. When you rank animals purely by how many humans they kill each year, we come in second, behind only one other creature. Through homicide alone, humans kill an estimated 400,000 of our own kind every single year, a number that dwarfs every predator, every venomous snake, and every large animal on Earth combined. And that figure counts only intentional killings. It does not even include the vast toll of war or accidents or the countless indirect ways human activity ends human lives. There is something profoundly sobering in that number. We spend so much energy fearing the animals in the water and the shadows, building our nightmares around teeth and claws and venom, when the statistics tell a very different story. No shark, no bear, no snake comes remotely close to the danger we pose to one another. To put that 400,000 in context, it is roughly double the number killed by every snake on Earth, and it is the reason that, on almost every serious ranking of the deadliest animals to humans, our own species sits stubbornly near the very top. By the cold logic of body count, humanity is the second deadliest animal on the planet, and only one thing outkills us. And at number 1, the deadliest animal on Earth, by a margin so vast that nothing else even comes close, the mosquito. This tiny, fragile insect, which you can kill with a single clap of your hands, is responsible for somewhere between 725,000 and 1 million human deaths every single year. It does not kill with the bite itself, but with what the bite delivers. As it feeds, it can inject parasites and viruses straight into the bloodstream, transmitting a devastating array of diseases. The worst, by far, is malaria, which alone kills around 600,000 people a year, most of them children under the age of 5 in sub-Saharan Africa. Then come dengue, yellow fever, Zika, and more, adding to an already staggering toll. There is a famous claim that the mosquito may have killed more humans than any other single cause in all of history, and while the exact figures are impossible to verify, the scale of its impact is beyond dispute. What makes the mosquito so unstoppable is its sheer ubiquity. There are thousands of species found on nearly every landmass on Earth, and they breed explosively in the smallest amounts of standing water, a puddle, a discarded tire, a bottle cap left in the rain. A female needs a meal of blood to produce her eggs, and she finds us unerringly, homing in on the carbon dioxide in our breath, our body heat, and our scent. Humanity has fought back with bed nets, insecticides, drugs, and now new genetic techniques, and in many places the death toll has fallen dramatically. But the mosquito remains the deadliest force in the animal kingdom, and the gap between it and everything else is almost impossible to overstate. Put it in perspective one final time. The lion, the animal we crown king, kills around 200 people a year. The mosquito kills that many roughly every 3 hours. It has no venom worth speaking of, no strength, no size, and no malice. It is simply the most efficient killer of human beings the natural world has ever produced, and it earns the number 1 spot without the slightest competition. So here is the real lesson of this list. The animals we fear the most, and the animals that actually kill us, are almost entirely different sets of creatures. Our instincts scream about teeth, claws, and dark water, while the true killers are small, silent, and spread disease. The most dangerous thing in nature was never the predator you can see coming. It was the one too small to notice, or, in second place, the face in the mirror. Of course, different sources rank these numbers slightly differently, and some of these estimates carry real uncertainty, so if you would rank them another way, I would genuinely like to hear it. Tell me in the comments which animal on this list surprised you the most. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.